Hi, I'm Harper Thornhill, and I'm here with Arik, who is going to answer some quick fire questions that I have on the platform choice. So, Arik, right away, I'm going to ask you this. What inspired you to start the platform?
I thought that I was doing research on loneliness and in very simple terms, why isn't there paid companionship? And then it was clear that paid companionship, the only way to actually request paid companionship is intertwined with paid intimacy or paid sexual intimacy. And I discovered there's a huge stigma on it and wanted to challenge that and felt that there's also a lot of safety concerns around it in the market now.
So, how would you differentiate choice from any other platform?
Verification and transparency of the company, the founder, me, the processes. Um, we're trying to be like a company in any other industry.
Hmm. So, tell me about the user experience. Is it modern and sleek and minimalist? What am I going to get when I log in?
So I think you're going to get something very boring looking, to be honest. And I mean, we've been criticized for it, before. Like people would say, there's no emotion in the website, or it should be a little bit more flashy because it has to do with intimacy or companionship. And the thing is, that's all true. And we talked and discussed this internally. It was a conscious decision because we actually looked at bank designs, financial institution designs,
All
because
right.
in the end of the day, we're asking everyone to scan their ID, take a selfie,
Yeah.
basically create records about, intimate interactions on our platform. So, we want to be the platform of trust for that. So that's why you're gonna get a
Interesting.
very um, Swiss look.
So another quick question. How does your website support sex workers?
So we just make sure that sex workers have in the equal standing to their clients, as equal as it can get, or as equal as technology can make it. So for example, one issue that we've heard a lot was time wasters. People
Right.
just writing on existing platforms, "Hi, how are you?"
Mm.
Where you get 400 or 500 messages like that, you don't really know which ones of the "Hi, are yous" is a serious client, and you risk that answering the wrong ones of those, you're losing the good ones or the serious ones, right? Um, so what we did is we actually implemented paid chat, so nothing crazy, but a side effect of that was also that providers who before shared their contact details directly with customers, which is
Mm.
actually a safety issue, because then customers have the phone number, they can change their phone number and then start
Yeah.
writing and harassing and stalking from multiple phone
And your
numbers
phone
or
number is
angles.
associated with so many things you don't realize, like Facebook or Instagram. Mm.
So before we had to explain, this is a safety issue, don't share your number, and then the numbers would still be shared, and then we would get the safety reports, and we couldn't do about anything about it. So PayChat solved that for us
That's cool.
by getting rid of the time wasters, um, but also making sure that there's no incentive for the providers to,
Yeah.
share the contact details, because WhatsApp is then not paid anymore.
So you've created this space that is safer for sex workers. You've given back autonomy to people who need it. You're protecting the rights of sex workers by giving them a space to earn and without exploitation. How do you ensure that the platform remains profitable whilst also prioritizing those things for sex workers?
So we have to, I guess we have to have a short-term vision and the long-term vision. So in
Mm.
short term, we are addressing issues that are in the market right now, like payments or escrow, identity
Right.
verification, pay chat, logistics, like how to schedule, how to put availability, get like blocking bad actors, so post-meeting feedbacks. Um, so that's what we're doing right now, but we rely on the provider community to use it, right? So we at the moment are not generating proactively customers for providers. It's more of a Calendly tool or scheduling, payment, booking slash screening tool for making the logistics or administration
So
easier
like an
for
explicit
providers.
admin system, an explicit
Yeah,
Calendly system. That's awesome because even
something
on
like that.
Calendly, you can't say, I'll meet you at this time for that, for some this kind of fun. Yeah, okay, that's cool. But how are you going to maintain profitability? Just making sure that this is working well for sex workers so they continue to come back.
So we will not be profitable until probably mid of next year.
Okay.
So investors are bridging that gap for us, which is also a struggle because similar to society or the press, there's always the reputational risk being mentioned of what if something goes wrong, and it's just shocking to have to explain that so many things are going wrong right now. And your argument is
Yeah.
so, it's like a burning house and everybody stands there, watches the house burn and said, well, somebody go do something about it, but not me.
One should do something about that,
Yeah.
but not
Uh,
me. Yeah.
I that's a little bit the feeling that I'm getting. And then there's others who say, "Great, you're doing something about it. Here's my support," and then they invest.
Mm,
So we need more of those.
that's
And
cool.
then the other, I think, how we're gonna remain profitable over the long term is by increasing the market to include also paid non-sexual intimacy and also companionship, which we think there's a large portion of clients across genders and sexual orientations who who would genuinely like to book or request company or potentially proximity, closeness, but they can't because all of the platforms that are out there look very explicit in nature, like from the imagery, from the material that's on there.
Yeah, like for me, when I go to Dubai, I want to spend time with people. And in the kind of Saudi culture, you can't book time for sex with someone, but you can if you're a very modern and kind of open-minded person, you can spend time with someone in a restaurant. That's perfectly
Mhm.
acceptable. So to book, to be able to book the kind of like Saudi bookings on there is it's so cool. It's so cool. But
Yeah, and
what?
I think that's another. You're hitting on a good point there. So in order to maintain long-term profitability, we also need to exist long-term. And
Mm,
to exist long-term, we have to make sure that all the services that are offered on the platform are compliant with local jurisdictions. So that's actually why we have to ask all the providers to put availability. So that's not some weird feature to make everyone's life miserable. It's actually necessary to ensure compliance of providers and clients in
yeah.
in the given jurisdictions, because based on the availability, we know in which jurisdiction the meeting will happen. And then we only, in the booking summary, we only ever show legal services. So
It's
when the
very
client goes through the booking, they will know only these services can be legally consumed for this price, and the providers know, well, I only have to provide these services for this price because that's what the customer agreed to.
mm.
If after whatever legal service was rendered, if after that there's consent to privately continue with something more intimate, that's fine, and that's between two consenting adults.
So because a lot of these conversations, these bookings are online, in fact, so much of our life is online now, we're having these conversations, very private, nuanced conversations about kink and sex and things that would make our grandmothers absolutely shudder and blush with embarrassment. But how is choice protecting the privacy and personal information of those people that are using this? What if there's a data breach or a cyber attack?
So first of all, that was one of the priorities when looking for team members. So our CTO worked in a top like global top cybersecurity company before. That's also disclosed in our data security process. So we try to create transparency as much as possible, but there's
Mm.
no magic. So anybody telling you that their system is impossible to breach will just lie. I mean, any system is corruptible because any system is in the end accessed by humans, and humans are
Yeah.
corruptible. So from our perspective, the safest data is the data that is not stored. So, like in simple terms, if you wanted to limit your data exposure, you would create a profile, then, make a booking request, verify, make the payment, and then the booking request would be for tomorrow or in 2 days or in 1 week. And then after the meeting happened, you would have to give your feedback. And after that, if everything is fine, so if there's no behavioral conduct or choice code violation reported, then you can remove your profile again. And from the provider side, we only ever store the data not on our infrastructure, but on the data, like the ID verification providers or companies, the infrastructure, and it's only stored for a maximum of 30 days ever. That's why we have to re-ask
Yeah.
for the ID after 30 days if you have another booking. But we prefer it that way than just storing all that data
Yeah.
somewhere for no good reason.
It's so vastly different from any other platform that the sex work community is using. And I just wonder, you're making these insanely amazing supportive leaps and bounds in the kind of broader sex work community, but what else are you doing? Are you doing anything sort of through advocacy, legal support, offering resources? How else are you supporting the sex work community that are sort of creating the base of your platform?
So we would love to build a sort of a buddy system. I think it's really important that providers understand what we are doing is not making everything safe.
Mm.
It's making everything safer.
Exactly.
So choice is not a replacement of existing safety protocols, and those should be exchanged, especially to providers new to the industry.
Mm.
They should, be taught by someone with more experience in the industry of what certain safety protocols are that,
Mm.
personally I also don't know because they're kept confidential so that bad actors don't have anywhere to go and read how to get around them or how to circumvent them. Um, and then we are always here for any kind of questions towards the product or the roadmap, but also, I mean, luckily we didn't have that case until now, but if there was ever a case of a behavioral guideline violation, we would have a network of organizations or also individuals in legal practices who take on cases like that. So that is
And
something that
am I
we
right
would
in
that
thinking
we
you
would
also
support.
do a 555 scheme?
Correct. Yeah. So 5% of our equity, our profits, and our employees' time goes into a foundation that will have a mandate to deploy those resources back to the provider community. It's just right now it's not worth a lot because we're in the beginning. But the aim is to embed a mandate to give back to the community if this becomes a success, because that's the uh, sort of the shortcoming that we see in other companies when they become successful. They don't often give back in that same scale. They
Yeah.
may give back, but not on such a massive scale that they would have committed in the beginning. And in the end of the day, any company in this industry, well, like any company probably, only becomes successful through its users.
Mm. Yeah. So how do you engage with sex workers in the development and the evolution of this platform? How do you see this kind of coming together with feedback? How do you make sure that this reflects sex workers' needs and their voices?
So we are open to any voice, any time of the day. That's why you'll find on in so many places on our website, you'll find links to our WhatsApp channel, our email address, um, so many ways, on all the social channels, you can get in touch with us to provide feedback. Also, like whenever somebody mentions on X as well, hey, I'd be willing to give feedback. I do consultancy, in a professional capacity. We always, compensate, of course, anyone for their time. So yeah, so that's how we engage with the provider community.
So if someone out there said, Arik, I've got loads of great ideas, you would hire them as a sex worker to give you their thoughts?
Yeah, right now we would absolutely do that. I can't guarantee that we would do that on a continued basis because it
Mm.
depends, like with any collaboration, it depends
Mm.
on whether or not, we want to continue to, or they want to continue the collaboration. But we're very open to that.
Okay,
Even encouraging feedback, absolutely.
awesome. And what role do you see your platform in playing in the fight for sex workers' rights and the decriminalization of sex work, like in general? What do you think your role is, Choice's role is?
I think our role is showing society that there is a form of consensual, self-determined
Mm,
sex work and paid companionship and paid intimacy and all the levels or shades in between
mm.
that deserves to be, legally embedded into any jurisdiction with all the rights and obligations that come along with it. I think that's really the pro that so we see ourselves as an advocate for that, and we also actively seek exchange with governments and government entities.
It's been really nice talking to you about all of these quite challenging topics, and I have lots more questions to ask you, but I'm going to give you a little break. So thank you so much, Arik. It's been really, really interesting to talk to you.
Thanks a lot, Harper. See you next week.